This is a painting that is bursting with action, bursting with drama, bursting with terror. It's also a painting with a message about how we behave at those moments where we think we are at the peak of success. My name is Matthew Morgan, and I'm absolutely delighted that for the next 10 minutes I'm going to be able to talk about this wonderful painting by the Dutch artist Rembrandt. It really is one of my favourite paintings in the National Gallery. After this, if you have an opportunity to come to the National Gallery, you'll be able to see it because it really does warrant looking at closely. This is a painting by the Dutch artist Rembrandt van Rijn, and this painting is a scene from the Bible, from the book of Daniel. Rembrandt has chosen to show us the most dramatic moment, the moment that is full of the most meaning in the entire story. The central character, he is a king. He is Belshazzar. We know that he's the king. On the top of his gigantic turban is a tiny little crown, which shows us that he is the monarch. He is surrounded by courtiers. In the Bible story, he has called together 1,000 of his nobles, and they are having a feast. These items have been looted. They've been looted actually by his father, Nebuchadnezzar, from the Jewish temple. Nebuchadnezzar has defeated the Jews and therefore has taken away everything that they own and brought them back to his own country. But his son Belshazzar, significantly not somebody who has defeated anybody in battle, he is using them. He's using them for something that they're not intended to be used for. And we see him, he's turning around and looking over his shoulder. It's a very uncomfortable looking position, I think. And he's looking behind him at a hand that is reaching out from the clouds and is drawing letters on the wall. And one of the great things I think about this is the emotion that we can see in these people's faces. Look at this man's face. He is terrified, as I think we would all be terrified if suddenly a mysterious hand appeared behind us and started writing things on the wall. And all the other people around, all the other characters, they are also all terrified. If we look at the figures on the left, the older man, and the person next to him, the woman next to him, look at the way her eyes are wide and her mouth is slightly slack-jawed. In fact, they're both slightly slack-jawed. They are amazed. They are full of fear. So frightened, in fact, that in front of them is a goblet which has fallen over and the wine is pouring down in front of them. They don't notice that. Their attention is elsewhere. And if we look to the right of the painting, we can see this woman in the red dress. Her back is turned to us. A very brave choice by Rembrandt of not showing this woman's face. But we can tell that she too is terrified because of her movements. Look at the goblet in her hand. Again, the wine is pouring out of the goblet. She is so terrified by this sight that she is dropping everything that's in her hand. The hand that is reaching out behind them is sent from God. The Hebrew God has intervened at this moment. What is significant is that none of the people here can read the writing. Just as perhaps we can't read this writing, they don't know what it says. In the Bible story, Belshazzar is worried. He doesn't understand what the writing means. And so he calls all of his advisors to come and tell him what this means. None of them are able to decipher the writing. Significantly, he finally asks Daniel, who is Jewish, to read the writing. And Daniel manages to do so. And Daniel says that the inscription, which reads Mene, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin, which he translates as, God has numbered the days of your kingdom and brought it to an end. You have been weighed in the balance and found wanting. Your kingdom is given to the Medes and the Persians. This is a prophecy that Belshazzar will die and that his kingdom will be divided amongst his enemies. And this comes to pass. In fact, before the night is out, Belshazzar does die and his kingdom is indeed divided amongst his enemies. This is the genesis of the phrase, the writing is on the wall. First, in fact, recorded very much at the same time as Rembrandt was painting this picture. And when we say the writing is on the wall, what we mean is that there is a prophecy of doom. So he is being punished. He's being punished for desecrating these Jewish holy items. He is being punished fundamentally for not believing in God, not believing in the Hebrew God. We don't know exactly when this painting was produced, about 1635. And in 1635, Rembrandt was making a very good living, partly painting portraits, but also partly painting religious scenes, such as this. And the area in which he was living was an area which had lots of Jewish inhabitants as well. And we know that Rembrandt was friendly with many of them. The significance of this is that in a fundamentally Protestant country, Rembrandt was able to think beyond perhaps the confines of his religion, beyond the confines of his faith, and converse with and find out about other faiths. The moral of the story, the reason perhaps that Rembrandt is painting this story, is that this is a story about not just somebody who doesn't have any faith, but somebody who disrespects his enemies. Belshazzar's father, Nebuchadnezzar, has defeated the Israelites in war and has looted their temple. Now, this is perhaps the natural order of things for a victorious general. His son, however, does not have that right because he himself has not been a victorious general. So using the silver, using the plate that we see all on the table in front of us, is nothing more than an act of disrespect. And it is this moment, perhaps, when Belshazzar feels that he is unassailable, that God intervenes. And the moral here surely is that whenever we feel that we are at our peak, whenever we feel that we have reached an unassailable position of authority or power or success, that actually is our weakest moment. Hence, Belshazzar gets his comeuppance and is killed by God. There is some thought that perhaps this very message was important to Rembrandt and perhaps important to the person for whom he was painting this picture. We don't know entirely the genesis of this picture. We don't know whether it was a commission. Was there a single patron who decided with Rembrandt that this is what he wanted? But there is some thinking that the message of this story is a reference to the political situation in 17th century Holland at this time. The Netherlands was a country that had recently gained its independence. It had been controlled by Spain, and in fact had been referred to as the Spanish Netherlands for a long time. And the King of Spain, Philip IV, was a man who had no respect for Protestants. In fact, he was somebody who wanted to forcibly convert all the Protestants in the Netherlands. And perhaps Belshazzar here is representing, in many ways, the monarch who deliberately disrespects, deliberately goes out to change the way in which Protestants and other faiths believe. If you have a chance to have a look at this picture, not always easy to see on a reproduction, as is the case with most Rembrandt paintings, I'm afraid. Do come and have a look, because the way in which Rembrandt paints is utterly remarkable. There are stories of later in Rembrandt's life where he painted portraits of people and asked them not to get too close, because the closer you get, the closer you are to seeing how he uses paint. He's incredibly free, incredibly adventurous, incredibly ambitious. And all across this painting, you can see how really experimental he is in what he does with paint on a flat surface. If you get a chance to see the gold cloak or the gold in the cloak, the closer you get, it just dissolves into color. But take a step back and suddenly you see this glistening cloak, glistening with gold, glistening with fur. If you look at the dress of the woman on the right, all the way around her shoulders, it's painted so loosely, so freely, that one almost can imagine that it isn't a dress at all. And yet take a step back and the dress looks amazing. And across this entire picture, the play of light on the pearls, which all of the characters are wearing, the play of light on the plate on the table, beautifully, beautifully done, and could only have possibly been done by a man as technically brilliant as Rembrandt.